We're live.
We are live. Okay, hello everybody. Good afternoon. I am Amy Dwidowitz, a spiritual entrepreneur, and I have a very special guest with me today, Greg Ryder.
Good morning.
Greg Ryder is an amazing, amazing entrepreneur. He has multiple businesses, and I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment. But I just wanted to thank everybody first and foremost for spending the time to get that one key ingredient on how to make more money and to do it authentically, truly to do it from the heart, right? So, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm not going to go into my story right now, right?
No, I just no, not yet, because we're going to be coaching Greg later on and his story.
Yeah, I'm the CEO of Angel Investors Network, and we do everything from helping entrepreneurs raise capital to helping with marketing, and I own a apparel company and 2 or 3 software companies, and I'm just a serial entrepreneur that loves life, loves teaches, loves training, loves capitalism, loves free enterprise, and just loves everything about everything.
Awesome. And why do you love everything about everything, Greg?
I think it's because I'm in a business where I do things that I like to do, and I'm working with entrepreneurs. I'm working with people that innovate, people that create cool stuff, and it's always fun. And I like people. So for me, it's fun. I like it.
Well, and one of the things I just heard you say that I just really want to communicate to everybody who's out there, one of the reasons that you're on this call, or sorry, you're on this webinar, sorry, I'm used to teleclasses, that you're on this webinar is because you love what you do, and you want to fulfill that, and you want to get that message out to your people, your ideal client. You want to sell that product or service, but you want to do it from a way that's authentic, and that is coming from the heart. And it's not because you're doing something and you're on that rat race and you're on that hamster wheel and you don't even know who you are or how to be authentic with what it is that you're selling, whether it's a product or a service. It's so that you are really, truly coming from a place of being and be able to expand and receive and then attract all those beautiful clients that you're out here to serve, the reason that you're on this planet in the first place. And the thing I love about Greg so much is that he's always coming from this place of love because he loves his life, and otherwise he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. And he wouldn't be on this webinar with all of you sharing his gifts. So, with that being said, I'm just a little curious before I start to introduce myself. I'm a little curious about how we felt about the homework, or if anybody did it. So please put over in the chat bar if you had any questions about the homework. And just to go over what the homework was to put on an egg timer for 5 minutes and write out your story. And maybe you don't know what your story is, but basically, it's whatever was a game changer in your life, whether it was when you learned how to tie your shoes or when your grandmother passed away, or it could have been a monumental move in your life that changed your, the way of your thinking and being. It also could be just, anything. It could be how you walk the dog and your relationship with the dog. But these kinds of stories allow us to connect to other people. And when we connect to other people, then we are coming authentically from our heart, and we're able to then communicate and interweave our understanding of what our product and service is, whatever our message is, to that other person, because we've just related to them. So now they can trust us because they have a grandmother too that passed away, or they have a dog that they love very much and they go for walks with, and it's like their counselor, or whatever the case may be, right? So I would love to hear if anyone has any comments about how the homework worked for them, or if it didn't work, because I know it can be really challenging, and it almost feels a little silly to get inside your head and say, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write about myself. Maybe it even feels a little selfish, right? But this is where all the juice is, right? This is where your authenticity is in these stories, because this is how you then, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to repeat myself a ton, how you're going to communicate with that ideal client. And this is how we get that one key ingredient to communicating to that client. So, without further ado, I'm also curious as to, and this is really important, what is your title? Do you know what your title is? Again, as I've said before, human doing, right? So when we're human doing, we don't even know who we are. We're just showing up, and we're doing what everyone is telling us to do. We're sort of in this robotic land. But when we're a human being, we're the spiritual entrepreneur. or we're the angel investor. We are what feels right. It's our name. It's who we call ourselves. We're Amy D. So it's important to know your title. It's important to know what you call yourself, right? Because in what I'm going to teach you today, and what we're going to hear later on when we hear my story, and then we coach Greg on Greg's story, is we're going to hear the elevator pitch. Basically, that one true sentence, that one first sentence is that's going to communicate to your ideal client, whether you're in a networking event or you're on stage, it doesn't matter. It's that one sentence that's going to hook, line, and sinker all those people. It's going to communicate to them, right? It's like that, and as a Bostonian, I'll say this, it's like that punch in the face. It just wakes you up, it knocks you upside the back of your head, and it's like, okay, I'm on board with this person, So that's really important. It's important to know who you are, so you communicate to the world who you are. And then it's also really important to know what your elevator pitch is, and the reason I say this is it's important to know who you are and from what company, right? That's your title. And then who do you help and serve? Who is it that you're calling to? Who is it you're being? Because more than likely, whoever you're being is who you're calling out to 4 years before. Because your clients are just an essence of who you are. And that's where the relatability is, and that's why the story is so important to interweave into your product or service that you're selling, right? And so, so that elevator speech is, I help serve or guide people who feel blank pain, whatever that is. So whatever pain you felt when you were an entrepreneur, right? What did you feel? So that they can benefit from whatever service you're giving. And then you give them the highlights of what it is that your trials that you had, those pains that you had, and then the triumph that you made from that. And the reason that this elevator pitch is really important and interweaved through your story is because, again, it's the hook, line, and sinker that communicates to that ideal client. All right, so just wanted to go over that homework because I like to give homework just a little bit, just so that everyone gets really clear. Clarity is really important to me, and I'm about to speak about that when I tell my story. So what you're going to learn on this webinar is really how to attract the perfect client. And like I said, we're going to give a couple examples. I'm going to give my story, and then we're going to hear Greg's story, and I'm going to give him a little coachability around that. And again, guys, feel free to ask questions in the chat box. We might be running some polls, maybe, possibly. So it's an interactive webinar. We just want to, we want you guys to have fun and to play with us. So, and this is what it's about. It's about playing, right? Because if you're not playing in life, then you're not in joy and you're not having fun, and it just, what's the point, really? So,
hey, Amy.
Yeah.
Ed is saying that you're not on the video, so I'm not sure. Am I blue boxed? So everybody, we're using some Google Hangout technology. So make sure that either you're not or whatever. So yeah.
Can you see me?
So we're gonna see. So go ahead, everyone. Tell us maybe where you're from and that you can hear us okay, and who you're seeing in the chat box. I'm starting to see the chats come through, and then we're also going to keep in mind, because this is actually live streaming and this is some new technology, we are about 15 and as much as 25 seconds delayed. So when we do ask a question, we have to kind of like banter back and forth or whatever and give people a chance to answer. So hopefully you guys are seeing Amy now. And but go ahead, type something in the chat box, let us know we're there, and we'll just keep rolling. And then if I have to interrupt you, Amy, I will, based on what I see.
Can you see me now, Greg? Or Ed, can you see me now?
Yeah, now Ed says now you're on.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, sometimes I just get on these tangents, and I love to just speak, and I forget that I'm even...
managing the technology.
Right.
So you know what the thing is, see what we're seeing for everyone watching is we're seeing each other. So Amy sees me and I see her, but we don't know what you see because it should be going back and forth based on who's talking.
Mhm. Yeah.
But if you have that blue box on, that won't work.
Yep, got it. So as I was saying, if I can just jump in quick, unless Greg, there's a question that you want to answer there. Is there something that came up?
No, I just wanted to let everyone know that we did get an email out with a PDF, and maybe some of you may have not have seen it because of the holiday weekend. So it might be sitting in your inbox, so you don't necessarily need it to go through what you're going to be doing, but regarding back to the homework and telling what your story is and that kind of stuff. But and we can give shout outs to everybody, Monica and Vicky and Misa, and everyone's saying where they're from and what's going on. So it looks like everything's working good. Philadelphia, Scottsdale, Arizona, awesome stuff. Cool.
Wow.
I love technology. It really is fun.
It is. It's amazing. So, just to get back to where was I? Just to get back to how to create results, how to sell and create results and solutions for your ideal client. It really comes back to, again, you being really clear about your knowledge, your pain. And you know what, I'm just going to go into, because I kind of just lost my train of thought, so I'm going to zap that out, and I'm going to go right into my story, if that's okay, and then we'll come back to some questions. Greg, feel free to interrupt me, okay?
Okay.
And I'm just going to go back into my story, and then we're going to talk about what your hook, line, and sinker sentence is. That first sentence, that's like your it's like your elevator pitch. And we all know in the very basics of business, this is a very important piece of your story. And then we're going to talk about how you interweave your product or service into that, and we'll see how that goes with my story and also in Greg's as I coach him. So, so to start, let's see. And Greg, if we can, is there a way for you to get the slides up? Can you do that? Or I know I'm having a problem with that. If you can, that would be awesome. If you can't, because they don't necessarily have to see me for this story.
Is that the one you sent me this morning?
Yeah. I know we were having a little bit of a because I tried to, for whatever reason, the infinity screen kept happening.
Yeah.
Again, we love
I
technology.
can do it because I have the dual screens.
Yeah. Yep.
I think I can anyway. Let's see.
Okay.
So now, do you see the full screen or do you see the slideshow?
I see the slideshow.
So did I just go to slide 2?
Yep.
Slide 3.
And all of it's delayed. All right. So let's go to slide 4, if you can. And we'll just hang out there for a minute. And you can look through that. And if you want to just continue on, whatever, just that was basically the PDF, so you guys can hear my story, and I can tell you my story as you guys are just looking at the slides. But so basically, the story I want to tell you, I have a multiple amount of stories, but the story I want to tell you is how I got to the place that I'm at right now. And basically, it started off with this assessment. I was in my coaching school, okay, and one of the things I wanted to do as an energy practitioner already of 18 years, I really, really, really wanted to, get clarity for myself, as I've been talking about the whole entire time, right? And I felt that I had 4 businesses. I had the most perfect life, really, from the outside looking in. You know, I had the Ken doll boyfriend, and I was Barbie, and we were, you know, the talk of the town, and everybody just loved and adored us. And I found it really interesting that I still was miserable, okay? And I'll just put it back on myself so you guys can see my eyes and you can see me. I'll just switch back and forth, so, you know, I hope you don't mind. But so anyway, I had this perfect life from the outside, and what people would think was a perfect life from the outside, and it really wasn't. I was pretty much miserable. I was choking inside, and, you know, number one with my businesses, I wasn't breaking through that glass ceiling, and I didn't know why. And I loved what I did. It just wasn't working for me. And beyond that, I wasn't happy with my relationship, even though I had the greatest guy. I had a beautiful home with sunrise deck and a sunset deck, and I had everything that I ever wanted. And, you know, it was the mountain home. It was perfect. I had all Well, I'm building the picture. I'm talking too much, but you get it. You know, it was the perfect life. So here I am in this perfect life, and I decide that I really need clarity. And there's all these people who are selling all these, basically these clarity pills, right, out there, and I just didn't feel aligned with it. So I was in this coaching school, and they said, okay, so you want clarity, you take this assessment. So I got this online assessment. It took me like 20, 25 minutes to do, about 80 questions. And then you go away for a weekend so that you can become an energy leadership master practitioner. Well, that's awesome. I didn't even care about that. I just cared about myself getting clarity so I could be better for my clients, so I could be clearer for my clients, so that I could then have relived and lived through all of the experience that I needed to, so I could support them in the best way I knew how and be of service to them. So anyway, so I go to this this workshop. It's a weekend workshop, and we go through all of the whole deal with how to be a master practitioner. And I don't really care the whole time. I'm just like, give me my results. So finally, the last day, they pass out the results. And it's right before lunch. And then they say to us, do not open your packet. And you're not going to understand it anyway, so don't open your packet. And I'm having a temper tantrum because I'm just saying, I signed up for this thing so that I could get my results and get them now. And I didn't get them, and so as everyone started to pile out for lunch, I grabbed the CEO and I said, hey, I need to know, and I need to know now. What does this mean? And so we sat against the wall, and he started to look through my results, and he said, Amy, your energy's amazing. You're totally flying off the charts. You're fine. And I said, well, then how come I still feel this way? I feel so unsatisfied, dissatisfied, disconnected. I don't feel like I'm serving in my highest. I'm not that happy in my life, and I'm sure as hell not happy in the money that I'm making. I'm just doing what I'm doing, and I just feel like I'm going through the motions. And we've all felt like a human doing before, just going through the motions, right? And so then he starts to flip through the pages, and he starts to say, hey, Amy, randomly, just a question, how's your relationship? You're in a relationship, right? And I said, yeah, I am. I live with my boyfriend, my partner. And he said, is it like a roommate? And I'm thinking to myself, and how the heck does he know that? Because I definitely didn't answer any questions on my relationship. This whole thing was about leadership, about leading myself to lead others, and about getting clarity on what was stopping me, what my blocks were, right? And I didn't really know what he was getting at, and I was almost kind of embarrassed. And then I started to recognize, yeah, my relationship's like I'm like living with my roommate, and I'm not that fulfilled. And that was such a huge block for me that I didn't know, and I just didn't really understand how he understood this through this assessment. It didn't make any sense to me. And so as I go to lunch, I'm still thinking about it, and then it becomes the end of the day, and I learn how to then give this assessment out, and it was a beautiful weekend and a lot of clarity, but still I'm reeling from this idea of how did he know this, and now what do I do about it? So as I put in my GPS my home address from New Jersey, the highway was about 7 minutes away. It really wasn't that far, but I knew that I was still lost in my thoughts, that I was just going to, I wanted to make sure that everything was kosher, and I was going to be able to get to the highway quickly and just get home. And so as I'm in my process, I happen to see this body of water on my right and a cluster of trees on my left and a gas station. I just notice it, no big deal, and I keep on driving, and I look at the GPS, and it says that the highway's right there. And then all of a sudden I look up again, and I see the body of water, the cluster of trees, and the gas station. I'm like, huh, that's really interesting. Well, I'm in Jersey, I don't really know, and everything looks the same anyway. Who knows? And I look at the GPS, and it says, yeah, another couple minutes. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, I see it again. And I know you guys are all thinking, like, Amy, really? Come on. And this actually did happen. And so as I see the body of water and the cluster of trees in the gas station, I pull into the gas station, and I'm having a fit. And I'm pissed. And it dawned on me. I had been literally and figuratively driving around in circles in my life as well as in my car. And the only way that I was going to be able to go in a different direction is to physically point my car in a new direction, which also means figuratively point my life in a new direction. So as I drive home from Jersey and I finally get on the highway and I finally get myself home, what I did was I had to have that difficult conversation, and it wasn't easy. I'm not saying that it ever is. But I had to have that difficult conversation, and I had to leave my house and all my things. I had to leave everything. I had to move into a small apartment. I had to just, whatever. I had to do it. Didn't matter. And I mean, I had to sell a house and cars and finances, and we all get this, right? It's like two people being married when you live together for a long period of time. And there's all kinds of, breakup with that. And it might seem like it's more difficult in the moment to do the breakup, but really it's easier. Because just about 3 months later, when I had just sold 2 businesses and just let the other ones just manage themselves, I created a new business. And in that business, I gained a 6-figure income in less than 3 months. That's what happened. And so it was all in my energy and how I was being, because I was pushing and I was forcing, and I didn't have the clarity that I needed. And so now I use that story to sell this assessment. And that assessment can sell anywhere between $600 and $1,000. And that assessment, it's 20 to 25 minutes, right? It's an online assessment, and then you get an hour-long debrief with me, right? But that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. This story is so powerful. It changed my life, and it created a huge bank account. And all I needed to do is tell this story, and I know it's, 5 minutes long, and then interweave what somebody's going to get from my story. They're going to get the clarity I got. It might not be easy, but it's an hour out of their life, an hour and 25 minutes out of their life to get the clarity that they want in order to make the money that they want, right? It's super powerful. It's super powerful. So I invite you guys, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, this is it, And so the elevator pitch in this is, I've been looking for clarity. That's it. You know what? When somebody hears that and they've been looking for clarity too, they're going to say, I've been looking for clarity too. Hey, pick me. I want to do that too, right? So I invite you guys to think about that story. I mean, it doesn't have to be traumatic. Like I said, it just is something to connect to somebody, and then we interweave it, which is what I want to do with you guys. I want to help you to sell from your heart space, from your love. So without going off on a tangent, Greg, is there any questions or anything that's going on there?
No, for me, I'm following right along and taking notes.
Oh, good.
I've got a half a page of notes, and then I got my laptop out, or I got my iPad out, and so I'm seeing what other people are seeing as well. So that way I can kind of see how it looks.
Awesome. So the one thing that I'm seeing right now is I'm just seeing how I make money, and you will too, for the first slide. I'm not seeing the other slides, so I'm not sure if anybody else is not seeing those slides. Now I see you.
Let me try something here. So this one. Okay, now there you go. I got it right now, I think. So you can share my so that's the slide I'm on. I'm not what if you want me to go to a different slide.
Yep, the next slide. Okay. So this is really important, and Greg, we're gonna just about come to you in about 5 minutes. As I just figured out, I didn't really introduce myself. I just said I'm Amy D, the spiritual entrepreneur, and I figured that if you're on this, you probably know me, or you've seen my stuff on Facebook or on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, because I put out a lot of videos, or YouTube. But really, that is my story. Is I made a six-figure income in 3 months, and it was all through really being authentic and telling my story and how I can help others, and that's it. It's that simple. And so this slide really, what it states is if you're a speaker or whatever it is that you do, even if you own a clothing store, it's a little silly, right? But you could be a real estate agent, right? You could be anything. And so what makes you unique and different? What makes people want to work with you versus the whole other slew of people out there? So like when I work with financial advisors or investors, if you look at like Northwestern, it's one of the largest companies. There's 150 people, say, in one area. It's really more like 5,000 in one area of, you know, I'll use Charlotte, North Carolina as an example. So there's 5,000 of those advisors in that one area. How and why are people going to want to work with one individual versus the other when they all have the same business cards and they all walk around saying the same thing, right? So are you guys getting why your story is so important? So I have a Greg, if we can go to the next slide. Thanks so much for doing that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
No, for me, I'm sitting here listening, and it's like, and when we kind of get to my story, I'm like, I get the point about building the resonance and getting people to attracted to kind of who I am and what I'm about. So the whole transparency, the whole you know, congruency maybe is not the right word, but something along those lines, to where, you know, you're working with the people that you want to work with and you're not working with people you don't want to work with. And I think story helps accomplish that.
Exactly. Because you know what, there's a lot of people out there who are speaking the same lingo. So in that slew of similarity, what makes you unique and different, right? So without further ado, Greg, why don't we get on to your story and we can hear a little more about you, and I'm going to say let's take this slide off so we can see your face, your beautiful face.
Okay. So you know, my story, and you know, as I'm listening to you, because I do so much, and I've done so much, I have a couple stories. But you know, when I speak publicly or people ask me about what I'm at, you know, I always tell the story about my upbringing, because so here's how it goes. So I was very fortunate to have been born into a very, very wealthy family, and literally, my dad was a multi-millionaire. My whole family on my dad's side was. But unfortunately, my parents got divorced when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And growing up this way was just amazing. And one of the ways I always describe it is when I went out to dinner with my stepdad. By the way, I had 3 separate stepdads because my mom got married and divorced, married and divorced, married and divorced. And there's probably a story in that as well. But when I go out to dinner with my mom and my stepdad and my half-brothers, the bill was maybe $80. And then I remember visiting my dad, and we'd go out, and he would throw a $200 tip down. It wasn't like we had a, you know, $1,000 dinner or $2,000 dinner, but he just threw, you know, he had the money, so he would throw a $200 tip down. So you know, when you grow up around that, and then to me, there was nothing that my dad didn't seem special. Like, my dad actually had an alcohol problem, and he didn't seem super smart. So I grew up, and he lived next door to a billionaire, and I got to experience things and see things and do things that most people don't get to do. And then I looked at my dad, and I'm like, he didn't seem me special, didn't seem wicked smart, didn't, you know, that's a Bostonian term that made me think of you. He didn't seem wicked smart or anything, but yet he had a lot of money. And it really was about, for him, it was about his connections and his relationships that he had accumulated through the family and through my uncle. And it really taught me a whole bunch of stuff. And then one day, when I was like 19 years old, I got into his Jaguar. He bought a brand new Jaguar, and he had a bunch of stock confirmations, and he taught me to invest. And I started investing at 19 years old. By the time I was 20, 21 years old, I was making lots of money investing, and mainly because I was Dirk Ryder's son. It wasn't because I knew anything or had any special skills. I just had this relationship, and my dad was in this good old boy network, and we always got the call. We always got the special call. My dad always got I always ask people, like, in this day and age, like, did anyone call you to invest in Google? Right? Did you get a call to invest in Google? Because you know that Google actually was looking for seed capital, investment capital. They went to Yahoo, and Yahoo turned them down. But I was told that Tiger Woods got the call, and he invested in Google in the early stages and made 800 times his money. So, you know, growing up and being involved in that family opened my doors, opened up relationships, and gave me an opportunity that you know, most people didn't have. So I've taken that, you know, to the bank, to the point to where I understand. I'm very grateful for that. But then I became very, very dependent on myself and wanted to become independent. And then the whole story switched around, where I didn't want to be dependent on my dad. I wanted to show Dad I could make it on my own. And I became an educational junkie. And here I am, you know, 30 years later, still learning every day of my life because I choose to. So I don't know how much longer you want me to go on my story. But
I want you to keep going. Because how did you get to be what you are now? And I get it's because your dad. So one thing, or you know what, Greg? This is one thing I'll point out. Okay, so one thing just I want to point out that you said is you know, it's, and one thing that I really want all of you to take from this webinar is that hook, your first word, and then that line as your elevator speech. And so when Greg opened up, he said, I was very fortunate as a child. Now that's awesome, but, and that makes us want to listen like, okay, so why were you fortunate? Definitely. But really, truly, if he was to say, at the age of 19, I was taught to invest. Now, I'm like, ooh, you were taught to invest? What does that mean? So I don't know anything about investments. And I know you own some company called Angel Investors. So let me hear about that. What do you mean you were taught to invest? And then you were to say, I made all this money and I just kept on doing it. Now you can say, you know, I then at the end or in the middle start to go back into I was very fortunate. You know, my father was a multi-millionaire and he was a part of the Good Old Boy Network. So I was always able and I had the opportunity to always be on the up and up always, right? So and that's a beautiful line into who you are and what you do now. The thing is that I really want to communicate, and then I would love to just hear the story again maybe. Maybe you can just try it again just for fun. But one of the most important things, and I gave this to you guys in the PDF, is don't dump, okay? Because the reason that this practice is so important, and the reason I gave you guys homework and whatnot, is because we often we get so connected to our remembering self, right? So there's the experiencing self in the frontal cortex versus the limbic system, which is the remembering self, the two parts of the brain. And when you get into the remembering self, then you get into this place of experience and you start to say, well, you know, my father and mother, they had a bunch of divorces and married and divorced and married and divorced and married and divorced. And that's awesome, but that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story for a whole other audience versus, hey, I'm Greg Ryder and I am the CEO of Angel Investor Network, and at the age of 19, I was taught to invest.
And then, you know, part two to that is at the age of 21, I ended up buying the firm I worked for, and I was hailed as the youngest owner of an investment banking firm in the history of the country. Okay. And then I was followed up by that was my first big mistake in life.
I love that. See, but so now you're giving a timeline. You know, you can say at the age of, what was it, 13 you jumped into his Jaguar? When was it?
No, I was 19.
Oh, you were 19. So, yeah. But you also talked about the dinner, and the dinner seemed to be pretty important to you.
Well, no, I was just saying, just to me, the whole dinner thing, going out to dinner with your one family, and the bill was $80, but then going out to dinner with Dad, the tip was $200. It just, for me, was an analogy that I created to help share with people what it was like, you know, living in one household and visiting another household.
But that has given you that has afforded you the opportunity to be able to want to help, like we said in the very beginning, and like you had introduced yourself, wanting to help the greater good of whomever. It doesn't matter if you're a multimillionaire or, you know, if you're somebody who's an entrepreneur who's just got a really great passion for something, you know, because you understand the two aspects of the two sides of people. You know, some people, they were born blessed, and some people, they're working at being blessed, right? Or they're working at receiving and being blessed. We'll just say that. So what I love about that in your story is that if you went through the timeline of, you know, at the age of 19, then at the age of 21, and then you go through that whole piece of it so that you kind of give us all of the information in the forefront, right? And then you come back to, and I remember as a child being bounced back from both families, because a lot of people have been, you know, through a divorced home. And so what that gives us is it gives us a relatability to you, but it also gives us this idea of he has a heart and he understands what it's like to not have a lot of money. Just because he comes from a lot of money, if he needed it, he probably could go ask Dad, or maybe not. I don't know. But you also grew up on the other side of the tracks, so you understood both sides of the tracks. And what that does is it allows you to have a greater broad spectrum of understanding all kinds of entrepreneurs and all kinds of projects and what kind of money is involved with that. And also what kind of availability for money that, there's a lot of fear in borrowing a lot of money or asking for a lot of money or even thinking that you're worth it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's huge. And the other thing, too, is that because of that, it made me this conversation made me realize that because, like I said, my dad wasn't anything special or super wicked smart or anything, it made me believe I could achieve it. I grew up. And again, my mom was an entrepreneur, so I didn't live in that household. When you go to church or you go to different events and people are always talking about, people are always saying no, and people are always saying no, and and you grow up that way. I didn't grow up that way. So my mom was an entrepreneur. She never said I couldn't accomplish anything, but then I really believed that I could attain, the kind of success financially, anyway, that my dad had, because I didn't see him do anything that out of the ordinary. And again, I think, going back to what you're saying about being able to relating back and forth, it really, and I think that's what wants me to help people and wants to teach people is, hey, you can do this, you can accomplish this. It's like the only reason you're not making the money you want to make is because you don't know how. So just learn how.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do right now, guys, is I want to give you guys some social proof of all the different, Forbes magazine and Inc. magazine and how they're talking about the age of the storyteller. So mind me for just a moment. I'm going to try and share my screen and see if it works right now. Please, God, help us. Hold on a minute. See. Okay. Can you see that? Nope. Doing that thing.
Well, for a second I could see it.
Okay.
It's weird.
All right, I'm going to go back to it. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, so I basically just can't. That's all right. I can't go back. That's how it goes. Got it. All right. So there's a bunch of social proof, and I'm gonna I can anybody who has any questions, I can send you link after link after link of all different highly highly regarded people in our world who talk about how storytelling is really truly the way of the future in selling and in the marketplace. In today's marketplace, right here, consumers are increasingly comfortable with multi-channel engagement, right? So everything has become about this social networking. So everything is interweb-based, right, as we're doing this webinar. And I wanted to do this so that you guys could really see that, you can see somebody, you can hear somebody, you can trust somebody, you can know somebody. And it's the same thing over this, not to get out of, hold on a second. So what I wanted you guys to see is that there's so much social proof, but how do you know to trust somebody who you're hiring via the internet? And that's kind of the way that we do business these days. You look up on LinkedIn and you might not have met them. You might have had a Skype date with them. And then they become, your assistant, or they become your next, I don't know, CFO. Who knows? But when somebody has a story attached to it, then you actually know them and there's a relatability to it. Right, so let me just pick up another one. Let me just get you back on, Greg. Okay, give me 2 seconds, guys. I know, bear with me. I really appreciate y'all.
No, that screen sharing was working just fine. The
okay,
last one. So whatever you did it right.
All right, awesome.
And I just posted a link in the chat box for everyone who came late or did not get the PDF. I just posted a link for you to download the PDF, so you could have that right there.
Okay, good. All right, so let me just get me back on here, and here we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So oh, and this isn't the right one, but I'll go to this article after. So there's a article about you know, storytelling in a corporate setting, and how you can tell the story of your business, and then how you relate that to you, and then how you relate that to the message or the mission or the vision of the business. And then the people are really out there not buying the business, they're buying you, right? Again, that's why we listen to storytellers. And storytellers have been, you know, I mean, I'm going to go here for just a minute. You know, the Bible is one of the oldest stories or books, if you will, of our time. Okay, and we continue to listen to these stories over and over and over again, right? And you think about, I don't know, the Indians and shamans and all the, it doesn't matter what your race or your creed is or what your belief systems are. Stories have been passed down from generations to generations, and they're all telling us a story on how to live or not live our life, right? How to be better at our life, how to not step into the booby traps or those landmines, right? Because somebody already has done it, right? Jesus has already, you know, repented for our sins. He's already been up on the cross. We don't have to deal with that now. You know, we are loved, right? We just have to be authentic. And so that's the part of this kind of selling that can be so challenging, is to be super authentic. As Jeffrey says here, you know, our audiences feel that they want to get to know us as authentic people, so that then they will buy from us, and when they relate to you, they'll buy anything that you're selling, because they know that you're going to fix their problem because you were in their shoes. And I can't stress that enough. And you know, and maybe somebody else might have a hold on one second, Greg. Maybe somebody might. I'm going to put the camera on you. Maybe somebody else might have something to say about your hook, line, and sinker sentence. But you know, at the age of 19, when you go into a timeline and you go into Greg's story and you bring that up, it's so powerful, because he then can connect. I was taught to invest at the age of 19. So now what that's done is it's said, okay, I don't know how old he is now, but I'm only guessing that he must have mastered this. So I want to be a part of whatever it is that he's doing. You know, and so that's why I'm saying to you guys that this elevator speech, quote unquote, you know, of your personal story, if you can cut this down to 120 seconds and have enunciation at the very beginning where you say at the age of 19, people are like, oh, 19, and then they look at him and they say, and I don't know how old he is, right, but, and I don't need to know, but you know he's not 19, and you know he's probably not, you know he's probably not 30, and he might not be 35, so do the math. You know, if it's over 15 years, that's, you know, that's the master of what he knows, right? And he learned from the master, because he tells us in the story, he goes from here to there to there to there at 19, at 21, and keeps on going. So we want to buy from him, right? So, so guys, if this is of interest to you, okay, I'd love to answer any questions about how we can further work together, because I am holding a 5-week webinar, and in this webinar you are going to clearly have your 120-second story, okay? You know, and if we had more time, I would cut and paste Greg's story so you could see how we could break that down in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes we could make that story so clean without any mess at all, so that he would just, you know, be able to spit that out as fast as possible and then interweave his business that he's selling, who he is as a CEO of Angel Investor Network. I mean, he's got a number of businesses. He can, you know, he's got a number of stories too. I've heard them. So he can, you know, take another story and add it to another business, right? But he'll have that always in his back pocket. So he's never, you know, he's never not sure what he's going to say, right? And that's one of the worst things that can happen to us is we get afraid. We get out of being authentic. So if this is a story that's happened to you, right, then you know it. But you know it from, again, the remembering self. And I wanted to just go back to that real quick, and then we'll go back to what I was saying. But let
me make a comment real quick there too, because you're saying something that I teach in a different way, and I was talking to people about when they're raising capital. So you're an entrepreneur and you need money, you want to go on a Shark Tank TV show, you're trying to get investors, whatever that is. I say to people, the words that come out of your mouth are either a money magnet or a money repellent. So this is exactly what Amy's talking about, is how important the words are that come out of your mouth and how clear, succinct, and on point they have to be, especially when you're getting ready to talk to an investor and they're giving you, 3 minutes or 30 seconds or 45 seconds to get their attention, and if you don't, you're done. And there's no second chance with the venture capital world and the angel investor world. It's like your business plan will hit the trash can faster than you can say, well, let me say that again.
Yeah, and I have to say, let me just get me on. Yeah, and I have to say that that's just, it's 100% true. And like I was saying before about the remembering self versus the experiencing self, this is a scientific, you look it up, Google it, a scientific process in the brain that we get wrapped in our own story. I mean, you heard me in the very beginning. I started to think about, okay, so am I going to tell the story? Is that the story that I'm going to tell? And I didn't get into that place where I could have lost you. I could have. I know that story like the back of my hand, but what would be the most pertinent, powerful thing is to just boom, 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 boom. Here's all of the, here's all the points. And what's beautiful about that is you guys didn't even know that I was going to be selling an assessment at the end. Not that I'm selling it to you. I'm just saying that that's what I would be doing. So I can walk into any networking event and just have my little square with me and start having a conversation and go right into that story, 120 seconds, and there it is, $600. There it is, $1,000. There it is. And it's happened to me time and time and time again, and that's just 1 hour. That's just 1 hour of my time, of my coaching. And that's 1 hour of your time getting clear, right? So it is so important that in that first sentence, that elevator speech, and we all know this from business, I know I'm being redundant, but I have to repeat myself, that you hook your ideal client, or you hook your investor, or you hook whoever it is that you're talking to, okay? And so in this 5-week webinar, you are going to learn your 120-second, your 2-minute story, which we can expand to 5 minutes, which you can expand to 7 minutes, which you can expand to 20 minutes, depending upon who you are and what you do. And then you're going to learn the key steps in how to interweave that selling your product or service, so that people are going to be so emotionally attached to you, they have no idea. They have no idea that even happened, because you know that we're emotional beings, so we get wrapped up in the story, right? That's why we somehow get attracted to those victims who are like, oh my goodness, this happened, and you're like, oh, I want to fix you, I want to help you, what can I do? We all know this has happened to us before, right? So that 5-week webinar is starting in 2 weeks. It's going to be the same time, same day, Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is one of the most powerful tools. And I promise you that this will not only double or triple your income, it will quadruple your income. It will, I don't know what the word is for 10 times, but that's what it will do. Because, and I don't know what the word is for that, I'm sorry, trying to sound intelligent, but I only know it because I have testimonial after testimonial. I like to play one for you. I'd also love to tell you about, let me tell you one first, and then I'll play one for you, a video from a client of mine who, was working with me, and shortly thereafter, she had her closing rate was nothing. And then after we started working together, I think it was about 5 weeks, her closing rate was at 60%. And then it rose to 80%. All because she was able to connect to people on a different level in a saturated market, of who she is and what she does. But, I want to tell you about these two people, and it came to me this morning, because I was woken up with this whole thing. And stop me, Greg, if I'm going off on a tangent, because I like to do that. But I was woken up with this whole message of, sometimes Source, or God, if you will, takes you a way that you wouldn't have gone to show you what you needed to know. And that's your story, right? That's your authenticity. And that's what we're being of service to sell people, right? Or to market to people. So why I'm saying this is that it reminded me of these two clients I had who opened up a botanical business in New York. And they had called me in, and I had worked with them both for 3 months. And they didn't have any clients. They had literally like 2 people, 3 people in the books. By the time we created not only a strategy and a plan business-wise for them, we also cultivated a story. Their stories were different, and they were both very beautiful, and they were challenging. And that was why they got into business together, because they were so different. But their stories were so powerful that when they got on the radio, when they got newspaper interviews and magazine interviews, and when they actually started to speak in public with the Chamber of Commerce and all these other different networking events, people were flooding through the doors because they wanted to be a part of what they were doing, that mission, that vision. And they did so well, we just stopped working together, and we are in contact. We are on a consulting basis because they just didn't need me anymore. They needed their story. That's what they needed. They needed a plan, and they needed their story. And what that looked like financially for them is they were able to pay themselves, and they were able to pay themselves. They were both looking at like $2,000 a month, and they ended up paying themselves $5,000 to $8,000 a month. And on top of being able to pay their bills, paying their rent, right? And it just, I mean, I can't say enough about the power of your personal story. So, Greg, is there any questions that are in the toolbox before I hook up my testimonial?
No, there's a couple questions that we can answer towards the end that aren't really relative to what you're talking about right now. But if you have questions, you can go ahead and type them in the chat box. I'm looking at those. And I see that there is a question that just came in about your story and speaking from stage. How long can your story be when you're speaking from stage?
Well, it depends on what you're, it really does depend on what you're doing. So if you're speaking from stage, it can be anywhere between 20 minutes and 45. Typically a stage presence is 45 minutes. Sometimes it can be an hour and a half. It depends on who you are. Usually big keynote speakers are hour and a half, hour to hour and a half. So your story really wants to be about, if it's that amount of time, it really wants to be about 20 minutes. 20 to 20, we'll say 7 minutes, and then you want to interweave what it is that you're selling, and tell stories around that and what was the accomplishment around that. Because sometimes, and what I do when I'm on stage speaking is I tell a completely different story, and that story is just for people to understand why I'm unique and different. And then I go into a whole process of teaching people teaching points or critical steps, so they understand why they want to work with me. And I tell stories around those points. And then I go through a whole sales process of, all right, let's sign up now. Was that clear?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay. All right. Give me 2
Are you going to play a testimonial?
I am right now. Give me 2 seconds. Thanks so much for your patience, everybody. Just trying to get it up. Come on. All right. Hold on. Me. Okay, share screen. Guys, thanks so much for your patience. Let's try this. There we go. All right, you see that? Does everybody see this?
Play it. I see a black screen.
Oh, no.
But hit play.
Wow.
Is it playing?
It is playing. It's playing. Huh.
Is there any audio?
No, for some reason there's not. Oh. Guys, I apologize for this. Hold on, let me try something else. Hold on a sec. Let's see if I go a different route. Stop sharing. Let's try that. All right. This is all new, guys, for me, so I apologize. I was having some problems yesterday in playing with this, and I'm doing my best. I'm going to try it this way and see if this works. And the audio's not working, Greg. So guys, what I ask you to do to listen to this is go to amyd.me/portfolio/226/ and you'll see this wonderful client of mine, Deborah, who's out there doing amazing things to help the world. And if you were to go to her website, you would see multiple amounts of video testimonials that she's of her clients, and that's and I'll just give it to you. Why not? It's albanyhypnosiscenter.com, albanyhypnosiscenter.com, and she has helped a multitude of people since we've been working together quit smoking, lose weight, and stop their anxiety, and it's all because she's been able to differentiate herself in the market. So yeah, Greg.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Deanna's asking, Amy, what are some questions I can ask myself to really gain clarity about what I do for people? This is where I get stuck.
Okay. Ask me that one more time, Greg.
What are some questions I can ask myself to really gain clarity about what I do for people?
Okay,
this is where I get stuck.
Okay, so first, Deanna, what you really want to know is, what's your passion? What do you really believe is, why are you here on the planet? Now, I know that that's the age-old question, is why am I here, and who am I, and what's my name, what does it mean? You know, but really, think back to the last time you were excited and happy, and what were you doing? And then think back to the next time, and the next time, and the next time. And you know, I know for myself, I just love talking to people. Like Greg, I just love talking to people, so I know that I'm going to be, you know, I have multiple businesses because I'm an entrepreneur. I know that that's the way that I get to be in contact with a lot of people. I know that I love to talk about experience. And I also know that one of the things for myself is that I pride myself on being really authentic and clear. So Deanna, you know, I have no problem being vulnerable and telling my story. So I'd ask you first, you know, what is it that you do? What's your title now? And what is it that you've always wanted to do? So if you were to wake up a year from now and step down on what kind of carpet or floor and look around you, what is it that you see? And then how do you start your day? Because more often than not, one of the problems that we do is this human doing. We think that we're supposed to show up and do this thing all over and over and over again. So we're not able to get connected and clear to really what's going on in here. You know, what's going on in here. This gets totally, this blocks the heart, right? Because we're thinking about too much about how we're supposed to show up. So to get yourself really clear, you want to start to notice and become really aware of how you're being in all situations in just one day. Spend a day and journal and ask yourself. And when you're getting frustrated, write down why you're getting frustrated.
Hey, Amy, unblue block me because I'm stuck on the screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, Diana.
And again, I'm going to comment again on what you said. So obviously, so what questions can she or me or anybody ask ourselves to figure out what it is we do? Mm-hmm. Is there a couple questions that really give us clarity that we can ask ourselves? So, okay, what do you do? Like, what do you? Because that, again, serial entrepreneurs have that issue, right?
Yeah. Well, what keeps you up at night? What gets you really pumped up and excited, right? And is that your passion, or is it just something that you like to do? You know, I mean, I love to do yoga, and I was a yoga instructor for 9 years. But that's not what I do best. So sometimes you have to go through something and you have to experience it in order to then, you have to go through something and you have to experience it to kind of like shave off the fat and say, okay, I'm going to kind of like, you know, I have to like get beaten into this corner, and then I got to get beaten into this corner. I just got to go so that I can start to get, you know, hurtled down my trajectory of success. So you want to ask yourself, what keeps you up at night? What am I passionate about? When was the last time that I was passionate? And in a year from now, if everything was possible and money wasn't an issue, what would I see myself doing? How would I see myself being? Where would I be living, right? And that's an age-old question, but it's about getting really quiet and asking yourself, really, what do I love? What am I grateful for? When you know what you're grateful for, then you can start to follow the trail, and you can start to say, okay, I'm grateful for my voice and my ability to be able to speak to people. I am so grateful for that. So that's what I'm going to continue to do, because it's a strength of mine. And you can ask yourself, what's my strengths and what's my weaknesses? Where do I need help, right? So you might need help in the realm of clarity, and I'm the woman who I help produce clarity, you know?
Will you be going? So Ed's asking, will you be going over this stuff in the 5-week series? Is this part of what the 5-week webinar series is? Will cover?
100%, yes. I'm going to be going over all aspects of what story, your 120-second story, what story is going to be the most benefit. Hold on a sec, guys. What story is going to be the most benefit to you and your business? And if you don't know what your business is, maybe you need your story first. Maybe your story is going to cultivate your business. Maybe it will. I have another client who just got out of 32 years. 32 years. I think it's 32 years, right? 32 years, or was it 27? Of corporate. Okay. Now she's starting her own import-export business in the Middle East, no doubt. You know, in a place that everyone said you can't do that. And it's all because of her story and her passion, because she really wants to help people. It's not even about what she's doing over there. It's about the give back. It's all because she wants to help Bedouin women. It's like the coolest thing in the whole entire world. But she had no idea when we started working together that's what she wanted to do, but she knew she had a story. And she got clarity through that.
Very cool.
Does that answer your question?
No, that's good. Very cool.
So guys, this 5-week webinar is going to give you clarity on your story, your 120 seconds. We can expand that to 5 minutes. I mean, all of this is relative, but 120 seconds is all you need, okay? You're going to understand your hook, line, and sinker. You're going to get clarity on what it is that you are doing. And for time's sake, guys, I'm just going to throw this out here. So the 5-week webinar is $9.97. If you sign up now, I am going to give you the Money Mastery Blueprint, okay? That's a 30-day kit, all right? And that's on my website, all of the details. You can go to amyd.me and you can see all of it. But basically what you get in that is a 30-day calendar of accountability with all different kinds of skills and tools. Here, let me get me on there. With all different kinds of skills and tools. To be able to expand your business and expand and increase your bank account, right, through affirmations, through meditations, all kinds of downloads I give you. That's coming free with this webinar, the 5-week webinar. That's starting in 2 weeks, Tuesday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, in 2 weeks from today. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go to amyd.me/, it's /, right, Greg? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, /yes. And I want you to sign up because this is going to help improve your sales. It's going to help improve your business. It's going to help improve your life. Because when you can connect to your complete vulnerability, that's your power. Power doesn't equal power anymore. I mean, you can see that in our political system, and you can see that in our social security system. You can see that in our financial system. It's about authentically everybody showing up as themselves, as the gifts that God made us, right? So, Greg, are there any other questions? Because I want to answer some questions for people who might have about.
Yeah, I seen a question about if they can't make one of the webinar series, are we going to record them and have them available?
Yes. Yes, there is going to be, all of them will be recorded and all of them will be sent out to you, and I believe we're going to do, they can go log into a membership site where they'll always be there for them. There will be a unique pin to them. Is that correct, Greg?
Yeah, we'll build a username and a login, so you'll have always access to get access to the videos and downloads and checklists, whatever there is as part of the training.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing that Mary asked a question earlier that I wanted to get answered for Mary. In the handout, you used an acronym OTS, but she didn't know what the acronym stood for.
Oh yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah. So that's one of the things one of my mentors calls your one true sentence. Okay, I call it your hook, line, and sinker. because I really believe it might be your one true sentence. It's your first sentence of the story. So like for Greg, it's at the age of 19. And then you stop. You stop, and because that's your bomb. At the age of 19. Okay, what happened at the age of 19? Or maybe he says, I was taught to invest at the age of 19. Whatever we choose that hook, line, and sinker sentence to be, that's your one true sentence. And that's, you know, that's what gets you going. And guys, I'm gonna share with you on that webinar too. I'm gonna share with you one of the most unbelievable stories. And I can say, you know, I mean, and I'm not trying to talk for Greg, but he has said it is one of the most unbelievable stories that you could even imagine. And I tell this from stage, but I can't tell you right now. I'm gonna save that for the people who are jumping on that webinar. And that's how I sell who I am and my storytelling technique. My story selling technique, right? So you guys really want to hear that story because it's super powerful, it's super pertinent, and it's pretty awesome. And when you hear how I am unique and different, which would be my, as my mentor says, one true sentence, or I call the hook, line, and sinker sentence, that's really you want to know, why am I unique and different? Why am I different from anybody else? Why would you want to work with me? Right? Greg, anything else over there?
Well, I'm looking in here and I'm chatting back and forth, and I was going to put up a little poll asking people what they thought of the content today, if that's okay with you. Just to
I would love it. Thank you.
So yeah. I'm putting up a poll. I'm going to hit start the poll. It says, how well would you rate today's web class? And I'm using the word web class because it's really not a webinar, it's really a Google Hangout, it's really live, it's this combination, so I'm calling it a web class. So you guys can go ahead and vote on that and let us know what you think there. I'm going to go back to the questions and see if there's any more questions in the question tab. And
so I just want to say one more thing about this webinar, guys. The other piece of it too is you know, just for the sake of it, because I love to have conversations with everybody, and I want to make sure everyone's questions are being answered, I'm also going to offer a private Facebook group, so that you guys can post your stories, you guys can comment on your stories, I can comment on your stories, and I can actually help to configure them and read them all, and just really get clarity on everybody who is signing up. And the other thing, guys, too, I want you to know that there is only space for 20 people. So, again, I want you guys to go to amyd.me/yes to sign up.
And I've posted the link in the chat box, and there's also a pop-in on the right-hand side that also allows you to get right there as well. So you can click on the links on the right-hand side to get there. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm listening to you, and I'm sitting there going, you know, the thing that kind of struck me, Amy, is when you get your story down and you understand the language that comes out, you shorten that sales cycle to your end customer. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why, you know, I think that justifies your ability to make that claim that you can double, triple, quadruple, or 10x your revenues, because you're shortening that sales cycle, because the faster you build rapport, trust, likability, and get through that process, the faster you can attract the right kind of customers and serve more people at a faster pace. Is that right?
It's totally right. And, you know, CEG Worldwide, which is the largest insurance company in the world, they have a statistic out that it takes 6 to 8 contacts in the sales cycle with a client. Typically, when you're selling them a product or service. But with your personal story, it takes 1 to 2 contacts, meaning 1 to 2 conversations. So think about what you could do and how many other clients you could sell to or talk to or whatever service. In that, well, what's 2 minus 8? 6, right? So that's another 4 clients that you can get. You know? Is that right? I'm terrible at math.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to think about that, because now what you're doing is your conversion rate is 400%. You see that? Does that make sense to everybody? It's unbelievable.
No, and I want everyone to think of it this way too. It's like, if you're sitting here and you're listening to Amy, and your business has not got the cash flow that you want it to have, or it's not growing, and you resonate with what she's saying, what's the cost of you by not doing this? What's it cost you by not taking action? What's it costing you by not figuring this out? Do you want to be sitting here a year from now in the same boat, or are you going to sit here a year from now with that 6-figure, maybe even a 7-figure income? And that's how I look at this stuff, because it's all about getting people to really take action about, when they feel, if you've got something nudging you going, what's going on. And I was going to ask you to define the spiritual entrepreneurial too, because I think that's a great tagline that you came up with.
Thank you.
Kind of just switched real quick there. But.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to, and I will talk about the spiritual entrepreneur, but I want to just, what you just said was really, really powerful, because the thing is what does it cost? What is it not costing you? And if you're out there trying to inspire other people into action, but you're not doing it, then you're, again, being that human doing, that's just running on the hamster wheel, and you're being inauthentic. And I'm not calling anybody out, and I'm not being harsh, but I'm being real. You got to invest in yourself in order to have others invest in you. Otherwise, there's no clarity. There's no clear lines of communication. And basically, you're just BSing people. You're saying that you've got something. I've got a multitude of mentors that help me so that I can service everybody I need to. So I can be the best of the best. And I only work with the best. So that's really what, and I'll just go into the spiritual entrepreneur. That's what the spiritual entrepreneur really means to me. I have been, I'm a person of science and measurement for most of my life. And I'm also a person of spirituality, meaning I have a deep faith in God, and I have a deep faith and a belief in that we all have a creative design, and that we just need to trust in that design. And so if you feel the call, right, it's like Matthew 27, many are chosen and few are called. If you feel the call, then you got to jump on that. You got to jump on that, and you got to join us on our tribe of storytellers out there in the world affecting change, inspiring other people into action, right? Greg, is there anything else on that?
Nope, no questions coming through.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and end the poll real quick.
And guys, again, you'll find all the information at amyd.me/yes, okay? And I just want to communicate to everybody out there how lovely and how grateful I am that you all participated and you all showed up and played full out and were a part of this. It's really beneficial work that you're doing, and I thank you.
No, I thank you, Amy. This was awesome. And if anyone wants to, I just told the technology, put that link up on the right-hand side again, so you can hit that Get Started button and get going and get registered. All the recordings will be recorded, put into the membership site, so you're not going to have any chance of missing anything. And you can take this information and help it increase your revenues and take it to the next level.
And remember, guys, the other piece of this too. The other piece of this is you're going to have the Money Mastery Blueprint, and that was something that I created. That's my system. That's how I was able to make 6 figures in 3 months. You're going to get that too, and you're going to get that in PDF form, and you're going to get multitudes of meditations, and hence the spiritual entrepreneur, right? You're going to get all of my affirmations. You're going to get everything that I have and I know, and it's going to be a full-on accountability system, a morning and night accountability system. And it's, it keeps you in order. It keeps you intact. It keeps you in line on that trajectory of success. On top of having this 5-week webinar, having also the Facebook group, having me the whole entire time, responding, having a group of people all putting their stories and their intentions and their beauty and their vulnerabilities into a group together. So without further ado, guys, this is going to be sent out to you, and I really appreciate everything. I appreciate you guys being here, and I thank you. Greg, I thank you very much. You're amazing. Thanks for playing and for participating.
No, thank you very much.
Do you have anything more to say before we end?
Nope, I don't. I sure don't. Just thank you very much. I appreciate you. You're awesome.
All right. All right, guys. Here's us signing off. Have a beautiful day. Be blessed.